Openly, private offshore banks have taken control of the government, both parties. Obama is their man, 4 times the Wall Street campaign donations than any other candidate in history. 5 times the Goldman Sachs money. And their operations are all secret, but they're saying that, well, they'll tell Congress it's secret. I have those articles this week when Gethner, now approved to be Treasury Secretary by the Senate committee, said, well, it's all secret what we're doing, but it's international in scope. But separately, in the Bretton Woods II agreement, they said it will be a private world bank that you pay taxes to. Again, that was in Newsweek. You can just Google New World Bank Newsweek a few issues ago. Let's go ahead and go to your phone calls. Let's talk to Joseph in California. You're on the air, Joseph.
Hello, Alex.
Yes, sir.
I would like to give you a most sincere thank you. If it weren't for you, I wouldn't be awake right now to the horrible things that are occurring. I really, really do thank you. I would definitely like to get in on the subject about how the Obama wants animals to be able to sue people. Now, we're pretty close to that as it is. With all these animal rights movements and laws, I dealt with something in Florida where when the economy went downhill, I lost work, I lost my place, and living out of my car, and we had 2 cats with my girlfriend, and looking inside for a job off the internet, and cops went out there and ticketed us for $285 a piece on tickets, and then we had to have our cats' papers. So no longer can we have to leave the house with our papers. If we're taking our pets, we have to have our pets' papers too. For their shots, like they're going to have rabies or something. These are house cats anyway.
Well, there's also, under the Animal ID and Premises ID, there's a lot of hobby farmers that have 10, 15, 20 chickens, a couple pigs, a few cows. You're going to have to register all those, the chickens for $20 a piece, the cows for $100 a piece. But then all the big farms and big agribusiness, they're all exempted. So it's not about animal welfare. In fact, his new head of regulations, who wrote these papers about animals being able to sue you, says the government will represent the animals. And they say that then in a democracy, the animals will outvote the people. But again, it'll be the government saying they represent animals. That's a way to get around the, quote, people's popular will and say, well, we're representing these animals. I mean, it's the same thing where they'll, all over the country, they've been caught planting. And I appreciate your call. Planting endangered species. Just Google environmentalists caught in planting endangered species. There was a famous case, what was it, in South Dakota, where they were caught planting cougars. They've been caught planting birds. The government's been caught planting fish in ponds that again, regionally are endangered. It means in that area there's not a lot of them. They've been caught planting cave bugs in central Texas. So again, it's not about saving the environment. It's about, well, take the case of the city of Austin, stole tens of thousands of acres, claimed it was going to be parkland, turned around and built $1 million ranchette houses all over it. And it turned out it was all these different city council people involved with the very banks that would then finance selling the property once they had control of it. So it's bad. It's all about regulation and control. Dan in Connecticut, you're on the air.
Hey, how are you today?
Good, Dan.
I actually have good news for you. You know that case that got Barry Cooper into Odessa, Texas? I actually talked to Yolanda Madden's father, and I got a case narrative, and I talked with one of your previous guests about it, Randy Kelton. He does a show called...
All right, let me just stop you. A lot of folks that call in, we don't screen your calls, think we're having a private discussion, and so a lot of people don't know that Barry Cooper's a former narcotics officer that has reported that 85% of narcotics officers plant drugs on people. He's done stings. Now that he quit being a police officer, of the police doing things like this or not having warrants. And so now you've brought people up to speed.
Okay, excellent. Aside from the merits of the case, which I'm sure you're familiar with, the due process violations alone should be enough to get Yolanda out of jail.
Yes. Well, I mean, tell people specifically about Yolanda's case.
Well, Yolanda actually had a judge interfere with counsel, and basically what happened is the judge ordered the counsel that she'd actually fired to file motions on her behalf anyway, did nothing through the trial, said file a motion for continuance, and the guy did it anyway, and the judge denied it anyway.
Well, yeah, I mean, routinely in these court cases, that's just one specific one, they cheat and violate every rule, and that's why the judicial system is so corrupt now. I appreciate your call. Let's go ahead and talk to Steve in Pennsylvania. Steve, you're on the air.
Good afternoon, Alex.
Hi.
In just 7 days, on February 1st, 2009, in Tampa, Florida, they'll be playing the Super Bowl. Steelers will be going after the sixth Super Bowl ring. Years ago, a movie came out called The Sum of All Fears.
Yes.
And to get the people's minds off the banking crisis, a major disruption at a Super Bowl event, like, say, if we find out a couple days later they say Osama had a ticket to the Super Bowl, wouldn't that be their perfect opportunity to get our mind off the banking crisis and for the New World Order to take a major step forward?
Well, I hear what you're saying. The globalists like to brag before they do something. That's why, and I talked to the producers of the X-Files, that they were approached by the CIA, had plots planted on them, and 6 months before 9/11, they had an episode where a hijacked jet is hijacked by the Pentagon. They use a drill to make the rest of NORAD stand down, saying it's a drill to fly it into the World Trade Center by remote control to blame it on Afghan terrorists. But when we start seeing every plot in a movie or television and thinking then, I mean, it's true. On FX, they had a show called Oil Storm that even had the mayor of New Orleans in it, where the city floods and exactly what happened in the film Oil Storm. That aired on FX 1 year before it actually happened in New Orleans. So it is bizarre. Is it coincidence? I don't know. What we do know is it's declassified that elements of the Pentagon have staged hundreds of terror attacks worldwide and proposed staging terror attacks in the United States in Operation Northwoods as a pretext to get people's minds off political things that are happening and to motivate the people to unify around the government's unpopular policy. And just a few months ago, it was all over the British and French and German and Chinese press that the Rand Corporation document leaked, a big Pentagon private think tank, that they need a huge theater war, bigger than the Iraq War, as a diversion for the economy. So what you say has a lot of validity. You just can't put a name or a date or a time on it. But do I think that the establishment, to get the people to go along and to be distracted from the foreign banks taking over, or openly the U.S. going into receivership to private banks and a world government bank openly being set up, will they stage a terror attack? Will they provocateur something? I had Congressman Ron Paul on the radio show Tuesday. Literally during the inauguration, he was on the show, and he agreed and said he believes it's a very serious danger that they will stage some type of event. And he said in the past a Gulf of Tonkin-style event is what he thought Dick Cheney would do to go after Iran. He said that about 2 years ago. And then it came out about 8 months ago in New Yorker magazine, and Cy Hirsch gave an interview and admitted that White House sources, and Seymour Hirsch, Pulitzer Prize winner, doesn't lie, folks, he's always been proven right, back to Vietnam, that the White House wanted to stage a terror attack in the Strait of Hormuz against U.S. ships using Navy SEALs dressed up like Iranians in fake Iranian patrol boats. But people leaked that out of the White House, and it didn't happen. So a lot of this evil stuff doesn't end up happening because there's a lot of good people in government as well. Let's get to some more calls here. Taking a lot of calls today. Eric in Austin, you're on the air.
Hey, Alex. How are you doing?
Good, sir.
Well, I just wanted to talk about a possible civil war in the United States, and I guess I wanted your input on it. I was on the Internet last night, and apparently there's a former KGB agent who was under Putin, who 10 years ago he claimed, because everyone laughed at him.
More than 10 years ago. He said it in 92. He said that the United States will, of course. He said it on Russia Today. He said the United States will collapse and break into 6 parts, and that it's part of the New World Order plan. That's the piece of the issue you don't hear in our news. But it's not just him. I didn't hang up on you, sir. Your phone disconnected. You can call back if you want to hear more what you have to say. But to fill folks in on that, the Army War College came out a month ago and said the United States could break up unless they put troops on the streets, basically. The British Ministry of Defense report in late 2007 said the same thing. The Rand Corporation, speak of the devil, said the same thing as well. We'll be right back. The news websites are Infowars.com and PrisonPlanet.com. Stay with us. Yeah, I do a 4-hour radio show Monday through Friday from 11 to 3 Central. that isn't enough because so much happens on the weekend and the new week before us. I come in for 2 hours, 4 to 6 p.m. for this abbreviated final edition here. We're taking your phone calls right now. Next hour, I'm going to get into the Coast Guard can't start a rescue until they fill out a health and safety assessment form. Ebola may have passed from pigs to a human. Unreturned library book for $13 lands woman in jail. FDA says no to GMO labels. But first, I'm going to get into what's happening on the financial front in the United States. As you're noticing, the establishment's known for many years they were going to implode the economy. They just keep lying to you, saying, go along with our next policy, our next plan, and everything will be okay. And a few months later, give us even more power. Give us even more anonymity and secrecy. Everything will be okay, and then it just gets worse. That is being done by design, and they hope their front man, Barack Obama, can fool the public long enough where they stand down so that Congress doesn't rightfully take the power back from the executive, which has been sold out to foreign offshore banks and financial institutions.